What's up, guys? I am back with another match recap. I literally just finished watching Real Madrid versus Osasuna, and I thought, you know what? Might be good to give a recap for that match. Another big match that a lot of people were looking forward to, including myself, honestly. One thing I'm never going to hide or keep secret. I mean, if you've watched any other videos I've posted, I am a diehard Barcelona fan, have been for most of my life. Um, so naturally, there's a rivalry between Barcelona and Real Madrid. But I am not one of those people that just casually, oh, I hate Real Madrid, they suck, blah, blah. Aside from Barcelona, I watch a lot of La Liga. It is my favorite league to watch. But I also just really like to, have an eye on the competition of the league. And the reality is that Barca and Real Madrid play at least two times a season. So I think it's only right if I stay educated, if I watch the games and just see what they have to offer. So I don't go into those matchups blindly. And so that's what I did. Watch the game. Like I watch a lot of their games. I don't know if I'm gonna make a recap for all of their matches, but anyways, have a lot to say about this game. So here we go. All right. So the result: Real Madrid won 1-0. Mbappe scored a penalty. Um, and Osasuna really didn't have much to offer throughout the entire game. I mean, this was just an obvious mismatch, understandably so. In the Bernabeu, it was a tricky one. I'm not gonna lie. Osasuna is not a team to sleep on. They were, I believe, ninth in La Liga last season. They had one of the highest goal scorers in La Liga last season, Ante Budimir, Croatian striker, and they're dangerous at times. I'm not gonna lie and act like you know this is a team that should be beating Real Madrid, especially in Bernabeu. But they're threatening, and they can punish you if you make mistakes. So you see here the possession, the expected goals, total shots, pretty much everything favored Real Madrid in this game. It really wasn't super close. Osasuna had a few moments, particularly in the first half, that I thought they could have done better. And but the reality is that Real Madrid handled this comfortably. Even though Osasuna didn't really suffer for most of the game, they really weren't in it. So we got the lineups here. This was very interesting. I was really interested to see how Xabi Alonso came into this first game as Real Madrid, a first official La Liga match as Real Madrid manager, and what kind of formation, what kind of lineup he was going to put out there. So you see, you got Courtois in the sticks as usual. Carreras, new signing, making a homecoming to Real Madrid. Dean Huijsen, Eder Militao, who's been he's a fantastic center back, but it's been dealing with injuries for the last few years. So it's good to see he's back. At least Real Madrid fans can be very happy to see that he's back. And then Trent on the right, Arda Güler, Tchouameni, Valverde in the middle, Vinicius, Mbappe, Brahim Diaz. So, you know, I got to say, Real Madrid right now, they are dealing with quite a few injuries. Rudiger is out after that incident last season where he was throwing stuff at the referees. Mendy's out. Camavinga's out. Bellingham's out. Endrick is out. They're dealing with quite a few injuries right now. But I got to be honest with you. I think of these guys on this list, I mean, I really don't know how many of them are really fitting into this starting 11 when healthy. I think Jude is probably the only one. I think the only difference that Xabi Alonso would make in the scenario of everybody being healthy and ready to go is maybe Jude takes the place of Goulet in midfield, and Goulet goes out to the right wing instead of Brahim. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. But despite the injuries, I say this to say that Real Madrid did show a very strong squad today, and I was very interested to see how the new signings and the returning players coming back from injury looked. Um, so let's get into that. You see some substitutions. I'll get into them a little bit more. But Carvajal made his return. Franco Mastuono made his debut for Real Madrid. I was very excited to see that Argentinian player from River Plate. Very, very promising player who I think is going to be a star. Gonzalo Garcia, who a lot of people really liked what he had to offer in the Club World Cup, got in, and Denis Ceballos also got in. So, few things that I took away from watching this game. What did we learn here today? So, Xabi Alonso makes his return after coaching for a few seasons in the Bundesliga, winning the league in a very tough league to win, admittedly, for Bayer Leverkusen. Xabi Alonso, worst kept secret in the world was that he was going to come back and manage Real Madrid. They replaced Carlo Ancelotti, legendary manager. But Xabi Alonso is a fantastic manager in his own right, young manager with fresh ideas, fresh tactics, fresh approach, and he was a legendary player for Real Madrid. So good to see guys like this coming back into La Liga, and so that was very interesting. I just was very curious to see how different this team looked, and they did look different at times. Plenty of injuries, but like I said, you want your full squad strength for sure. But I don't know how many of these guys would have made it into the starting 11 today, other than Bellingham, just because of the new signings that came in. First half, boring, really was. I didn't like what I was seeing from either side, really. Like I said, Osasuna didn't really threaten much. They had a few moments on like miscues in the defense of Real Madrid that they were able to get through the defense, and they just weren't able to put anything good on target. Real Madrid, it seemed to me that their approach was a little bit less direct today. They were behind the ball. They were building out from the back. And I think that's going to be something to watch this season for them. I think with the new guys that they added to the squad, Trent Arnold, Dean Huijsen, Alvaro Carreras, these are guys who are comfortable with the ball at their feet, who are creative, who are great passers of the football. And you could see today that they really wanted the offense and the build-up play to start from the back line, which is very different to how we're used to seeing Real Madrid play. They're usually very counterattack heavy, and I don't want to overreact to one matchup, especially Osasuna was, like I said, in the first half kind of just surviving, and I think they would have been cool with leaving obviously Bernabeu in week one with a point, and it could have been that way. It was close to being that way, but Madrid to me really lacked like the teeth in the final third. Like they had a lot of build up and there was no real like end product. At least in the first half. And I'll be honest, I wasn't super impressed with the way that they were playing. I didn't think Vinicius had a great game. He's really, really struggling the last at this point almost, I don't know, 12 months or so. Like he hasn't been great since Mbappe's joined the squad. As usual, as at least dating back to last season, Mbappe looked fantastic, taking players on one, being the most threatening player for Real Madrid by far throughout from start to finish. And that's why I say the more things change, the more they stay the same. I mean, yes, you can come in, you can change the tactics, you can change the approach, you can change the philosophy, but the reality is certain players are just who they are. I didn't see a lot of pressing to win the ball back. I didn't see, a lot of the things that increased work rate from the attacking players. I didn't see that, and that's something that a lot of people have been calling for Real Madrid since the start of last season. So I'm very interested to see how things look going forward against tougher comp. Like I said, Osasuna is a decent team, but Real Madrid should be managing this pretty easily, and they did. Some more takeaways. Expect changes to the starting 11 sooner rather than later. The reason I say that is because, like I said, there were some injuries that they're dealing with. There's a lot of new signings, new manager. Everyone's kind of got a fresh slate, a fresh start. And I think, Xabi Alonso doesn't really have any, obligation to make sure that guys have insured minutes. I think it's going to come down to how guys perform in each game, and if they prove that they deserve to be in the squad. I do think that you know guys like Vinicius and Mbappe are pretty much guaranteed to be in the starting 11 as they should be. But the right wing, there's minutes to be won there. In the midfield, there's minutes to be won there. I think even in some of the defensive positions, there's minutes there. So it's going to be interesting to see how things look in the starting 11. And I think especially they have some easy matchups coming up in La Liga, especially. So I think he can kind of play around and see what works. The debut of Franco Mastantuono. This was honestly the reason I was most excited to watch this game. I've been watching this kid for a while now in the Argentinian league, playing for River Plate. He is a special player, 100%. River Plate, if you follow them, if you know anything about them, they've had one of the best academies in all of South America, definitely in Argentina, for decades now. And you look at some of the players that they're sending over to Europe in recent years, Enzo Fernandez, Julian Alvarez, like just to name a few, these are some of the best players in the entire world of football. And I really do think that Franco Mastantuono is the next up in that lineage of great players coming from River Plate, coming from Argentina. And I was so excited to see this kid play. He just got there. He was just presented like 2 or 3 days ago to Real Madrid, and he looked great. I thought he looked great. I've seen Xabi Alonso kind of hyping him up a little bit. It seems to me that he trusts him a lot. He was taking corners from the moment he came onto the pitch. He seemed very confident, very sure of himself on the ball. He seemed very active, pressing to win the ball back. Very creative. I mean, this kid, the sky is truly the limit for this kid. Only 18 years old, just turned 18, I believe, like a few days or weeks ago. Like, this is going to be. There's been comparisons, Lamine and Endrick and Arda Güler, and if we're going to be completely honest, I think of all the young talents that Real Madrid has at their disposal at this moment, even though Güler is no joke as well, I think Franco Mastantuono is going to be the best one going forward for sure. This kid is really good. So I'm interested to see. I think honestly, especially with the injury situation they're dealing with, some players out, missing. Endrick's out, Jude's out, so those minutes are up in the air. I think Franco will be starting a couple games very soon. And I think he'll be showing the world, why he costs so much money. I think 70 million euros coming from River Plate. So very exciting, very encouraging stuff. The biggest takeaway I have is that I think, if you watch this game, they were playing a lot from the back line. Their center backs were sending balls over the top. They're playing it out to the wing a lot, which is understandable when you have guys like Vinicius out in the wing. But I think ever since losing Tony Kroos, they just haven't been able to replace what he brought to the table. And I know that it's easier said than done, replacing a guy like Tony Kroos, one of the best midfielders in the history of this sport. But they just don't have that guy in the midfield, to me at least, who can really unlock the defense, especially in a league like La Liga, where most of these mid-table and lower-table sides are just going to sit on that low block. They're going to absorb pressure. They're going to put as many defenders in front of the ball, in front of the attack as possible, and just try and get a result, and wait for a counterattack. And Kroos, even Modric not being there, I mean, these are guys that have insane vision of the field, that have a good feel for attacking players making the run. And, I saw today so many times Vinicius taking the ball down the left wing, and then defenders crowd him. He sends a cross into Mbappe, and that's just not the style of play that I think is going to work for Real Madrid, especially against tougher competition. The Atletico Madrid, the Barcelonas of the world, obviously in Champions League. I don't want to overreact to game one. They did win, so that's the most important thing at the end of the day. But it's definitely interesting, and I'm interested to see how they navigate that. I think maybe Goulet or Masantuono can fill in that spot in the center of the pitch. But I think most of their creativity is coming out from the wide position, and I don't know how sustainable that is. Honestly, I don't. So, player of the match, Mbappe. Really couldn't be anyone else in a match like this. 1-0. He scored the goal, won the penalty, and it was definitely a deserving penalty. No controversy there, in my opinion. Completed the most dribbles. Like I said, he was taking guys on left and right. Won the most duels in the match. I mean, look, honestly, man, this guy is just absolutely world class. If you're watching this video, the odds are you know about Mbappe. You know what he brings to the table. You know about his speed. You know about his ability to finish goals and just create something out of nothing. This guy, man, as a Barcelona fan, I mean, Barca won all 4 Clásicos last season, but the only reason that I was scared of those matchups, honestly, a little bit nervous, was Mbappe. He was the guy that in each match was giving us issues. And, I think he's going to have a great year this season under Xabi Alonso with some of these new signings. This guy you can't say enough about him. He just produces. That's what he does. He's one of the best in the world, maybe the best. And he had a great game today, honestly. I do think, even though I wasn't super impressed with Real Madrid as a team, as a whole, I thought Mbappe was exceptional today. Some other guys who mentioned, like I already spoke a little bit about Franco. I thought he was great. I'm excited to see more from him, especially, starting or a little bit extra time off the bench. But I think today he got a nice little cameo. Did well. And Dean Huijsen. I thought Dean Huijsen was great. Dean Huijsen is great. He's a very, very great ball playing center back, but at the same time he has a good feel for defensive positioning. And I think that he's gonna be key. I think he's probably outside of the attack. I think he's gonna be one of the most important players for Real Madrid this season, because I think their defense still leaves a little bit to be desired. And it's gonna be really interesting to see how this defense holds up against top competition, more threatening attacks. But he completed the most passes in this match, and he was just good. He just like I said, they build a lot through the back. They began the build up from the back line, and it all really started with him. And this is a really good player, man. And I think Real Madrid fans should be very, very excited about Franco, about Dean Huijsen, about Trent, and all the signings they've made this summer. I think were really well done. Um, so we'll see. We will see what happens. As far as their next match, they have a match this coming Sunday, August 24th, excuse me, on the road against Real Oviedo. So we'll see. I believe Oviedo just got promoted from the Liga 2. This is going to be Real Madrid on the road. So we'll see if they make any changes. We'll see if they look any better. I expect that they do. I do think that, with all the change that's happened, all the turnover that's happened around Real Madrid this season with the new manager, with the new signings and everything, and after the season they had last year, I do think that they might get off to a slow start. But around the time of the winter, November, December, January, I think they're really going to start to click. And I do think by the end of the season, they will be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they always are, especially when you get to those late rounds of all the competitions. Real Madrid usually looks pretty good. So yeah, um, you know, not a very successful hate watch for me as a Barcelona fan. But no, seriously, even though they didn't impress me too much, they got the win. That's all that matters. And so yeah, we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Appreciate you guys checking it out. Until next time.